Now, if you're a fan of boozy fragrances, we have a real treat for you today. Here we have a fragrance called Copper Still 51, and this fragrance is a bourbon-inspired fragrance. If you're a fan of spicy, sweet, honey, maple, boozy types of fragrances, this is a review you don't want to miss. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this fragrance, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on this fragrance, Copper Still 51, I'll tell you about the smell, the notes, the performance. Of course, it has boozy notes, spicy notes, sweet notes, vanilla, oak, so on and so forth. I do want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if you took something of value from today's episode. It would really mean a lot to me. Now, of course, this fragrance is called Copper Still 51, and 51 is the percentage of corn that has to be used in a mash bill in order to create bourbon. So you do have this accord of Kentucky bourbon in here. You have oak, you have plum, honey, maple, vanilla in the dry down as well. So it seems to go in a few different directions, but at the end of the day, this is a spicy, boozy fragrance. So if you're a fan of bourbon, and of course I'll be making some other comparisons throughout the course of this video, if you're a fan of spicy, boozy types of fragrances, this is one that you must try, and I do think that the price is very sensible and very reasonable. A 50 ml goes for $129 if I'm remembering correctly, or you can get a 10 ml for $30. So it's a highly affordable fragrance, especially if you're not sure, according to my description, if it's something that would cater to your interests or your personal taste. You can always opt for the 10 ml size. And then if you change your mind, if you end up falling in love with it, then you can sort of pick up the larger size. But in any case, I'm excited to break down the smell, at least let you know how it performed on my skin and how it evolved, all that good stuff. Let's start things off with a quick look at the presentation. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice about this fragrance is that highly spicy and boozy sensation that comes through immediately. So this is a Kentucky bourbon type of a fragrance, and you are definitely going to get that bourbon quality from it. Very boozy, very rich, very spicy. It doesn't actually delineate what the spices are in the note breakdown. We don't know if it's nutmeg or saffron or cardamom or allspice. We have no idea, cinnamon perhaps, but it does give off this spicy tendency, and spices are used in the fermentation of a lot of alcoholic spirits. So that's something that is sort of to be expected, but there's this warmth about it that I think is really delectable. So you have the vanilla, you have the plum, you have the honey, and you have the maple. So you take all four of those elements, you combine them, and it gives it this rich, decadent, almost sweet vibe to it, but it has this viscosity about it that can't be shaken off. Whenever you think of maple and honey, obviously you think of this density that is ever so present in this fragrance, and I personally really enjoy it. This one actually reminds me a lot of Single Malt by Kilian Paris. So if you're familiar with single malt, and there is a sort of corn mash accord in this as well, which is really interesting, right? How it kind of has those grains and it has that authenticity to it as far as the note breakdown and its transparency is concerned. It kind of reminds me of like Single Malt by Kilian if you were to combine that with like a very dark, spicy Montal fragrance. And it certainly has the performance of a Montal fragrance as well. It's almost like Single Malt meets Black Oud. I know it's very weird to say that, and that sounds like a weird combination, but there is this sort of density and this spiciness that it's like, oh, this kind of reminds me of a Montal in the dry down. And of course, Kilian Paris is a brand that does boozy scents so well. Everything from apple brandy to single malt to angel share to straight to heaven. They have so many boozy offerings. This fragrance, though, has that spicy booziness in the opening, and there is that smooth, sweet quality with that oak wood resting underneath it all to sort of convey the oak barrel in which the bourbon is housed. So all aspects of this fragrance were thought about and considered, and it's truly a spectacular fragrance. If you're looking for boozy fragrances, and I know there are so many on the market, to be honest with you, a lot of mojito fragrances. They don't smell boozy, it just smells like mint and citrus. A lot of pina colada fragrances just smell like coconut and lime. A lot of gin and tonic fragrances just smell like juniper berry. So I think a lot of times, you know, it's kind of used as a gimmick, but I think in the case of this fragrance, it really does smell like a spirit. It smells like you open a bottle or you pop the cork or whatever, and you're smelling inside the bottle, and it has that spiciness, that richness, that warmth. And this is one that honestly, all things considered, you have to try for yourself. If you're a fan of spicy, boozy fragrances with a touch of sweetness and a bit of density underneath, definitely check out Copper Still 51. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this fragrance is fairly unique as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I did compare it to some other fragrances, single malt, maybe like a dark, spicy Montal as well. Kind of like a hybrid of those two fragrances. But honestly, when you try this one for yourself, you'll notice that it does have a certain unique richness about it. Longevity is 10 plus hours. Projection is amazing for the first hour and a half to 2 hours of application. It radiated beyond an arm's length. It became an elbow's length scent right around hour 6.5 or 7. Skin scent right around hour 10 or 11. So the performance of this one is super strong. As a matter of fact, it doesn't have a whole lot of top or heart notes. It seems like it's a fairly base note heavy fragrance, right? It's comprised primarily of base notes as far as I was able to perceive. And that also means that it's a fairly linear fragrance. The way that it opens up is pretty much what you can expect several hours into the dry down. In terms of the versatility, it does have some masculine or traditionally masculine elements, especially because of the woods and the spices. So try it for yourself and wear what you want, wear what makes you happy. These are just recommendations. This one is great for the colder weather, great for a formal scenario, and this will probably appeal to somebody who's a bit older and has more experience dealing with niche, indie, and artisanal fragrances. In terms of the presentation, I do like the cylindrical container. I do like the label here. Everything about it looks very nice. Even the color of the liquid inside does a good job of sort of evoking what you can expect from the smell. My final verdict on this fragrance is, again, if you are a fan of boozy fragrances, you're not afraid of a little bit of spice, you want something that's very rich, albeit linear, but dense and thick and resinous at times, definitely check out Copper Still 51. I think it's a wonderful and definitely a boozy fragrance that everybody should try if you're a fan of boozy fragrances. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you took something of value from this video. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It would really mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.